Queen is a great example of the British experience, which embraces, dance hall music and American music and traditional jazz and, gypsy jazz,
Right.
European
Right.
jazz and so much, manouche music and so many different styles of music that it's hard. And I think, Sting is a good example of that. He was very open. And so initially when I was playing with Paquito, he was starting a record company called Pangea.
Okay.
Um, and he came to listen to Paquito and heard me playing classical and jazz, and all the different styles I played, and called me up and asked me if I would send him some kind of tape,
Yeah.
demo tape, and then I had to at that moment sit down and take stock, and that was a really good moment for me because I was able to say, well, I play electric guitar and I play all these different styles, but this music that I've been writing for Spanish guitar that's kind of jazz oriented
Mm-hmm.
is I think what I'm going to put on this demo tape, and on the strength of that, he signed me to his label.
Wow.
And so I was forced to kind of create a bit of a brand at that point,
Right.
and that was a healthy step for me.
Yeah.
And he was super supportive, super nice guy.
You guys actually played on one of my favorite shows, the late night thing with Sanborn, because I used to watch that. That's the first time I saw Miles was on that, and then that got me going into the back thing, and then I started listening to Tony and all that. I was like, whoa! I mean, that really kind of got me. But you were super young, right, when you were playing on there.
Yeah.
Was that an album that you guys put together, or he was just playing on that session with you? Because I saw Sting and Sanborn and
Right. So they got me on that show. I mean, Sting obviously used his clout to get me on that
Right.
show to promote the new record.
Mhm.
And we played, it was the second record that we were playing a couple of tunes from. And then he said, yeah, hey, how about I play bass in the band? It would be kind of cool, what you think? And I was like, that'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
okay, all right. I guess we
You
can
know.
do that.
So we had to rehearse a little bit and show him the tunes, and he's a quick study, and it was great.
He seems like another person like yourself that can go throughout all the styles, but really nail the styles. Which is very rare, especially when you're a rock star.
Yeah.
To be able to do that.
Oh, for sure.
Right,
For
and to
sure.
have an open mind to be able to do that too.
Yeah. In retrospect, I think, and I don't really know the details, but I do think that, his enthusiasm for sophisticated music maybe clouded his appreciation of the raw, earthier music that was so much a part of the Police, the success of the Police,
Right.
and the success of so many bands.
Right.
I mean, Queen was never a blues band, but Led Zeppelin was.
Right.
And as much as I love Queen, I think Zeppelin's leaving a mark that's pretty pretty intense because of their connection to the roots and because they're raw. And I've always, as a classical musician, as a jazz musician, tried to remain as much as I can, willing to connect to that earthier place, because a lot of the world music that I play is just pretty earthy,
Oh yeah.
and it's hairy. It's not clean, And I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in the cleanliness and the perfection and the pristine performance that we lose a lot of the earth in the music.
Well, like one of my favorite bands, Grateful Dead, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, you hear like the board recordings and stuff, or the taper recordings from the '70s, and if you were an audio person, you'd have a heart attack. But I love that because that's raw sound. You hear it.
And that's sort of what started happening for me is I realized that the only audience that was out there that was embracing a modern musical experience were the Dead fans, the Fish fans.
Yep.
And so I began to tour in the States. I stopped touring in Europe as much. First with my group,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of that Indian. I did that. I got signed to Blue Note Records
Right. Right.
after Pangea, and I did a couple of records, 3 records for them, and one of them was Deja Vu, which was a cover of the CSNY
Mm-hmm.
album. And that was a big record in the jam band scene, and so I was introduced to them, to that scene. And my band, we started doing festivals and touring a lot, and then the Garage Mahal came along, and myself and Alan Hertz formed that band as a sort of a more high-powered version of the Fareed Haque group that was
Right.
touring.
Right.
And we did about 200 dates a year for 11 years. Did a lot of touring in the jam band scene, but I really embraced that scene because it was open-minded and earthy and a lot more, more like the true jazz audience, that people were dancing,
Yep.
or moving. Jazz originally is a dance music; it's a groove music, and to have that still part of the performance experience, I thought was super healthy.
Well, that's the thing with it, and that's where I was going with that too, is into the jam band scene, because it seems like with the jam band scene, there's no genre specific to that jam band scene. If you're grooving, if it's fun, and everybody's having a good time, you could play Round Midnight as a ballad if everybody's dancing and having a good time.
And
and
I
it's
have.
cool.
And I have.
I mean, people dig that,
Yeah.
and that it's just such an open air thing, and it seems like you really got your foot into that door, and you're still in that scene, right? I mean, you're still doing festivals all summer, right? You're doing a lot of those things in the summer and touring and stuff like that. That whole genre is really blowing up, but I think that's where the world's going, don't you? I mean, you're not being pigeonholed. Do whatever you want as long as it's your stuff.
I mean, I think that's totally true, but the other side of it is there are corporate interests now that are so heavily invested in these different scenes that that it's, unless you're going to have a really organized, brand-oriented approach with money behind you, it's hard to take it to that next level.
Right. Take it to the Fish level where they can just tour and they're selling things out 3-4 nights in a row somewhere or whatever. Yeah.
Right. And I was never that guy, know. So, I'm still doing those kinds of things. Garage Mahal is playing again a little bit here and there, and we're still doing some nice shows and things like that. But as far as doing 200 dates a year, I'm not sure I'm ready.
That's a lot of 200 dates a year now is a lot anyway.
I was a truck driver who played music on the side.
Yeah, right.